This is a big rich town. I've just come from the poorest part. Bright light, city lights, I gotta make it. This is where it goes down. I just happen to come apart. Legal or illegal, baby, I gotta make it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Power After Hours, your favorite power podcast. I'm your host, Jeff J. Krissy's on the way. She's here. Wow. She, unless she left and came back, and I don't know. But yeah, she's here. Krissy's here. Jeff's here, and we're here to review Power Season 6, Episode 14, Reversal of Fortune, the penultimate episode of the series of Power. Krissy, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Finally got around to watching the episode, and
yeah,
it was interesting.
yeah. It definitely was. It was definitely something that we want to get into, and of course, this is you're getting this a day later, day change later. Just like all of y'all, unless you've been under a rock or on a different Earth, or you were time traveling and you just came back. All the events surrounding the tragedy with Kobe Bryant, Gigi Bryant, and the 7 other people who lost their lives in that helicopter crash kind of threw everything off. Threw a lot of shit off, and I think we knew it. We needed to take time. Everybody needed to take time. So that kind of rightfully so, threw monkey wrench into everything that we were doing, and I think everybody would understand that, because I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really feel like talking about anything like that.
I didn't want to watch. I literally texted you. I think it was Sunday afternoon, and I was like, man, I there's no way. There's no way I'm gonna bring myself to watch that episode tonight. We've dealt with a lot of people dying. You know what I mean? Our generation is seeing a lot of our elders and our greats pass away, but nothing has hit me like the death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna. Nothing.
Right.
I was stuck. I did not move for hours.
Right.
I was in disbelief. And I'm kind of still in that state. As a parent, I can't imagine what those final 20 seconds for him was like. And for me, that just keeps replaying in my head, and it breaks me. And, we send our prayers and condolences to Vanessa and the other families that lost their loved ones. It's just a sad, sad moment.
Right. And take it as somebody who works in sports, and as somebody who actually got off a plane when they heard this announcement, or when the news was breaking. Yeah. I was legit. There's still a part of me that's still in shock anytime I see RIP messages, and I keep reading stuff and keep seeing tributes. It just feels like it's surreal. It feels like it's a dream. I thought I was going to wake up. I was talking to my coworkers, I feel like I'm still in my bed and I'm oversleeping for my flight right now. That's what it feels like to me. But, it's just the tragedy of it all. I know I have a shout out to all my fellow podcasting people who were filming that day when it happened, and they heard the news and had to pivot. There's a lot of pivoting going on. Pivot was the word. Pivot was the word, David, because it just felt appropriate. And
was pivoting. The Pro Bowl, a lot of movement.
Right. Everything. It was everything. This was, I will say, no hyperbole, I'd say this is the most shocking celebrity, prominent figure death in my lifetime.
Dude, Kobe was going to live forever. Kobe, we grew up watching Kobe, okay? This dude was unfreaking touchable on that court. He was a force, okay? I covered sports for almost 8 years, and there was never a time when I did not show respect to Kobe. People used to say Kobe versus LeBron, Kobe versus LeBron. I'm why can't they both be great?
Right.
Kobe is great at his thing, LeBron is great at his thing. I had so much love for the game because of Kobe. Watching him play, I can go for hours talking about Kobe. For real, he's he's one of the greats. And I literally, I'm like you. I still am like praying, like, this is a bad dream. Like, this cannot be happening. Like,
right.
He's 41.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 5 years away from that.
Right. It's shocking.
Do not do the math.
Tick, 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 tick. Carry the 1, carry the 3. But, but yeah, listen, man, like, it's just, I think about everybody, all those families, all those, you know, prayers to Vanessa Bryant, prayers to their you know, his 3 other kids. Like that whole shit is crazy. And I can tell you, you know, like Krissy said, we send our condolences. I think it's appropriate that, I saw on Twitter there was like a meme where it was the meme where Kobe was calling Dwight soft, where he was like, Kobe's probably in heaven looking at us like, y'all still out here crying, y'all need to go to the gym and put in work. So right, yeah, like, you know, it's like, oh dog, you being a little bitch right now. So
I will forever, whenever I shoot something in the trash can,
because word,
that's
so in true Kobe spirit, we gonna get back to it. And like I said, it reminded me of O-Dog and Menace to Society. You acting like a little bitch right now, and that's like the perfect segue to the episode that's like, what if O-Dog grew up and actually got a job in politics? What would have happened?
Which is nuts. Like, this episode was crazy. Like, you know, we didn't really, like, we saw Rashad this past season, the season before, but this episode, I think, really solidified what his character was, you know, what he did, who he was. Like, it gave Larenz Tate a moment to shine that, honestly, I did not expect to happen.
Right. And, you know, a couple of things for me for this episode. First off, this reminds us that Larenz Tate is a great actor. Yes. Like, Larenz Tate's a fucking great actor, and I think we forget about that because I don't know, you know, other than the classic roles that he's had in this era, I don't think he's had anything that's been as prominent as what he was doing in the 90s. Like, Power is like one of those things, and you forget, like, when he's the lead man, because all of these episodes are these characters in the lead spot. They're like the lead character, right? You forget that Larenz Tate is a dope actor. That's the first, and he kind of reminded everybody of that. That's first. Secondly, it's once again, I feel like this episode was in a vacuum, like just as an episode, I thought it was solid. You got enough backstory as to why Tate was a viable candidate to kill Ghost, like one of the prime suspects because of everything that happened. And you got more context between certain things that you saw in the series mid finale or whatever, the episode 10 when Ghost gets shot. So you get a lot of that. So I thought that was good. My thing with this episode,
wrong spot.
Yes.
Wrong
yes.
Spot.
It just creates more of a glaring hole in the issue in with what they've been doing with these flashback episodes. Like once I saw this episode, and this was like the debate that's been going on social and group chats or whatever about, and I'll ask you, we're going to hop around. We're going to talk about it because, like I said, I personally think that there wasn't as many holes to fill with Tate as this, but it was just good on its own. So I'll ask you, from what we saw in, well, actually, you know what? I'll hold that. My main idea, we'll get back to it in a second, is, I don't know if the placement was right, and I don't even know if, in terms of these episodes, what we're doing at this point. Right. So here's some of the things that were answered, right? And I think we'll get to it as we get to the end. I feel like 50% of this episode was to justify Cedric the Entertainer's rate for being on the show and basically appearing in about 3 or 4 episodes. And this was the one episode where he actually was doing some acting.
Which was funny to me. I don't know why. cannot take Cedric's character serious ever. Even though he was playing a serious character, he was still being said. You know, the scene where he's singing the song and he's about, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
Like he's always gonna be Cedric. He's always gonna have that comedic undertone with whatever he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard for me. He reminds me a lot of the way Bernie Mac used to be. You know what I mean? How Bernie would, you know, be in some type of role, but he always made it comedy. It's who he was. It's what he did.
Right.
So yeah, that was always, it was cool to see him on screen in this because he is such a big fan and a lot of people were, you know, clamoring to get in on this show. So it was kind of cool to see him and see his part play out and how he ended up deceased.
Right.
Everyone thought it was him. We weren't sure. It's definitely him now.
Right.
And it was kind of cool to watch. I won't lie.
Yeah, it makes it even more random that Tommy runs up and sees Cedric the Entertainer on the floor. I still remember when we was watching that episode 10. Hey, I was like, yo, that fucking Cedric the Entertainer on the floor? Dead? Who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? So that was like the first thing. But the second thing is, the question everybody's mind. What in the hell was Cedric the Entertainer doing on Power? So his character was a father and son, right? Who are hitmen, more or less. They and it looked like what they were doing at first was going after quote unquote bad people.
Yeah.
Because the dude, I guess, was a pedophile that they were cutting up and tied up in the beginning, and they ended up killing, right? So Tate calls them after everything that happened with his campaign, where it looked like he wasn't gonna win. He gets blasted, gets drunk. His brother has to come pick him up. His brother, who's also a cop, which gives the ties to him being former NYPD. He calls them he drunk calls hitmen to drive up to New York to do a job. Yeah. And then once he figures out that, he doesn't want to do it or doesn't want to go that way anymore, meets up with them like, yo, you know what, guys, it's all right. Yeah, I don't got a job for you anymore. And said is basically, well, I drove up all the way to New York. You told me to come up here the next day. There better be a job one way or another. Either the job is you or the job is this person.
And send them away. Like, Rashad, you're that stingy that you just you brought them up here. Their thing was, we're going to do the job. We want the money. And
right.
He was like, well, you're not doing a job, so you're not getting the money.
Right.
If you really didn't want a person to die, just give them the damn money. You're the one who made the drunk call.
Right.
I mean, damn.
Yeah, that is true. I didn't think about that. Like, yo, you could have just paid them to not do a job. But it felt like, you know, he was teaching his son the game. It felt like I saw a few people liken it to Pulp Fiction. Yeah, with Julius, like a little bit like loosely Pulp Fiction, but it looked like it felt like they were freelancers who gave up a job opportunity to go for a bigger job, and then the last minute the person, the client says, we don't need your services anymore. And they're like, well, yeah, I already had other jobs on the table and I quit. I bet there's a lot of freelancers out there who would want to kind of do the same thing to clients. So that scene in episode 10 where Tate is going up to Ghost after everything that happened, you know, he sees the announcement of Ghost being Walsh's running mate in his house, in his brother's apartment, where he's telling him like, yo, Tate for governor's over. St. Patrick's got him. They try to like motivate him, and then they see the announcement. They're like, damn, it really might be over for you. And that's when Tate had already been approached by Blanca and Sachs about Tariq. Then he was trying to call off the hitman. So it was not only Tariq. When we saw it in episode 10, it looked like he was just talking about Tariq. But now we know that not only was he talking about Tariq, he was talking about warn him about the hitman. And you get more of James just violating him. Straight violating him.
Like, golly, you really set yourself up. Like, the more James kept talking, I felt bad for Tate, because it was like he really came there to tell you that he had hired some hitmen. And as he's, as they've reportedly like almost squashed it, he remembers, oh shit, I really needed to talk to you about your son. Like, he completely had forgot about that. He was coming to warn her about the hitman. And then when he mentioned, James mentions his son, and that's when Tate goes, oh shit, his son.
Right.
And he was about to tell him what Blanca and them had. But here comes Jamie being big bad wolf and got to make himself an asshole, like we've seen him do over and over again. And he missed his blessing. Right.
Yo. Straight up, 100%. Yep. And you ain't lie about that one. I tell you that one. Yep. And it was so crazy because he just kept trying. Yeah. And then even when he mentioned that Tariq is coming to the club, so he has to get ready, he's like, oh shit, Tariq, let me tell you about this too. And then James is just like, yo, nigga, didn't I tell you? Get the fuck out my club. Like, yo, and that's where I think where they try to make James St. Patrick that tragic figure. Yeah. It's almost like he's him as a main character. It's one of those Greek tragedies where we know all the information. Or at least in episode 10, we knew enough for him to just, humble yourself a little bit. Just like 5%. Just let him get out what he has to say. Like, nothing that he says is going to diminish what you had. But I think at that point, his character was so full of hubris because of everything that happened. Like, this has been a dude for 6 seasons, has been trying to get out the game and be legit and be something and prove to himself that he's more than a drug dealer. And now that it's within his grasp, no one and no thing he's going to allow to stop him. That's why it was, because as we've mentioned a bunch of times, we heard that damn phrase 85 million times. Ain't nobody stop me. Can no one stop me now? Can no one stop me now? Can no one stop me now? So that's where he was at. So the fact that he not only shut Tate down, disrespected him, talk about I'll put you on the list for the party. I'll make sure I'll make sure the Democratic Party don't forget about. Like, he was really talking that shit to Tate, and Tate was just, Tate was over it. And so Tate is like, you know what? Fuck it. If he dies, he dies. I'm not calling off the hit. And then we get the perspective from I think his name was Coop on the show, but fuck it, he's Cedric the Entertainer, right? So we get Cedric the perspective of Cedric the Entertainer and his son and that warehouse scene. Yeah. So we got that perspective, right? And so more or less he's breaking they follow Ghost that whole way. Once they know who he is, they're following him, follow him to the warehouse where he's talking with Tommy. So the plan was to catch him in the crossfire shot, but the son was a bad shot. So Ghost, because and I thought that was pretty good the way they did that, because Ghost should have been dead, and dude is just a bad shot.
He had no idea you were there. He wasn't expecting you. But if you notice, as they were leading up to that point, the dad kept trying to teach him things. He was rushing in the building, slow down. He was too eager. He wasn't really thinking about the mark, the target. He just was happy he got to use the gun. To me, is what it made it seem like. He picked up the gun, he got super excited. And the dad kept trying to stress to him, you have to take this seriously. We're still on a job, essentially. And he was a bad shot. He went wide. You know what I mean? And unfortunately for them, Tommy was there. We know Tommy's a marksman. He gonna get you every single time. Right. So that was just his bad day. Yeah. So he, it felt like the son looked like one of them kids who picks up a gun after they play Call of Duty and thinks it's the same thing, and it realizes that it's not. So that shot tipped them off. They get into the firefight. Ced gets killed. And that part where Tommy rolled up and was like, well, you're not the Italians. And then you see the son shooting from behind. Yeah. Like, that was, his gun had also jammed, so he thought he was gone too. So, the son is calling Tate, like, yo,
my father's dead.
Yeah.
You sent us into a trap, basically. Like, that's what they're saying. Like, yo, we didn't know that he had some other dude with him. You sent us into a trap. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's getting upset, and Tate tries to hang up on him and tries to forget about him. And it ain't until he rolls up on him in his brother's neighborhood that he wanted payback.
Yeah.
Let him know, like, we gonna go in there. I'm killing your whole family. You thought you could get away from me, and if it wasn't for his brother shooting the son and killing the son, that dude would have been a dead man. So that closed the loop. That's the one good thing about this episode is they closed the loop on everything but who shot Ghost.
Yeah.
They closed the loop on everything. So we get that part, and then that kind of builds that relationship between him and his brother.
Which
is
I thought
what
was pretty dope.
Yeah.
The thing about this episode, I didn't really see anything wrong with it. It just was in the wrong place. Like after they gave us the episode that they gave us last week with Tommy, which, like we both stated, felt like a series finale type ending. To put this after it just doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Rashad still is not the one who killed Ghost. We saw him with multiple opportunities. I mean, I think at this point, I ran up a tally of 3 to 4 times that he had the chance for Jamie to die. He went to Tasha, he went to Dre, and he dealt with the hitman. I mean, it was a mess. Like, he constantly was trying to get him killed, but something would always set him back. Like, his brother kept saying, you one lucky motherfucker. Like, you never get caught. Like, how is that possible? Go play the lottery because you just always find a way.
Right.
And I thought that was his slogan throughout the episode, his line.
New York leads the way.
Yeah, I liked it. It made sense. I really was happy with the episode. There was nothing really wrong with it. I thought they set it up properly. I just wish it would have been in the right spot. To me, it could have been where Paz's episode was. Because I still don't think Paz's episode made sense.
Nah.
I didn't like it. Let me just say that. I didn't like it.
The more these episodes drop, the more irrelevant the Paz episode becomes. And once again, it has nothing to do with Paz, the actress. It has everything to do with Paz, the character. One thing that a few of my people, shout out to my power group chat, feel that we've been talking about it the whole time, right? So you needed to justify, said the Entertainer, being like 3 episodes is a dead body and 1 episode as Cedric the Entertainer as a murderer, right? Yeah. You needed to justify that. So yeah, I feel like these episodes, they could have been, and shout out to my power group chat, shout out to everybody. Everybody was making the same point. This could have been 2 episodes. I think you could have took, first of all, I think the universal agreement is the Paz episode was unnecessary. There's nothing to do with Paz, the actress, has everything to do with Paz, the character. That character did not justify us watching for 45 plus minutes.
A full episode. Like, you could have given her and Sax 1 episode, to me.
Right.
And the episode could have focused on Sax. We've had a lot of episodes that focused on Sax, the character, last season, this season. So I kind of get why you maybe would give him something solid.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, it's not Tasha or Tariq who did it. To me, it now doesn't make sense. So
right.
You're giving us episodes that are just pissing people off, essentially. Because they're like, y'all dragged this out for what? For what?
Because they wanted, it feels like they wanted 5 other episodes. They wanted to, they've been talking for years about needing extra episodes to tell their story. But you got the extra episodes and you just kept telling the same story in a loop. I applaud them for what they're trying to do in terms of doing something different where you're telling ending from a different perspective in order to fill in holes and enrich the episode that you're already showing, right? But this last 5 episodes of the series, it's similar to an album, a record, like a music album that isn't sequenced right.
Yeah.
So if you ever heard good music or one of your favorite artists put out a project and you create your own playlist where you sequence it the way you want to, how certain songs hit. Sequencing is just as important as the actual content, because in the old era where you were listening to music not on a playlist from a playlist perspective, but from an actual album perspective, when you have an artist who creates an album and they sequence it and they want you to hear certain skits, certain beats, certain transitions from one song to another, and you get the totality of what they envisioned when they were creating it, and artistically they wanted you to consume the project in that way. I think these last 5 episodes are completely missequenced. Mm-hmm. The fact that you gave us that Tommy episode. Tommy is the most important character in the show after Ghost. And even in the going up to it, he just kept ascending with the fans and ascending everywhere just because he was the most compelling. So when you give us that episode and there's no cliffhanger about what happens to him, you give him an ending. After that, you know, we were riding with Tate. Tate's been around for a couple of seasons, give or take, right? But because if he wasn't Larenz Tate, nobody would care. If this wasn't Larenz Tate, Larenz Tate being Larenz Tate is 50% of why people ain't like, yo, fuck this episode. Yep. Straight up, right? But the minute we saw what we saw in Tommy's episode, it ruled out, Sax is a dark horse, but it ruled out Tate. Cause he don't really know Tate like that. So if he saw Tate, he would have let off. Cause it would have been like a regular dude. Like we already know that it's either Tasha or Tariq. I think the fan base knew that. But if you're telling me, I don't know if we needed 50 something minutes. Although this was a dope episode. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't think we needed 50 something minutes of Tate-centric because of the different events, him going up to Ghost and talking to him, the whole thing with Cedric the Entertainer and the warehouse scene, even like something as simple as him coming up to Tasha and telling her that, yo, James is about to throw Tariq under the bus, you need to do something, and she gives him the he always wins speech. Right. That's like giving Tasha more motive to kill Ghost. Right? While Tate is trying to do everything in his power to get Ghost out of here after he was disrespected. That could have all been condensed. It could have been rolled into the Dre episode. So if I had to resequence it, right, I would probably say you do the Dre episode, the Tate episode, mix pause in somewhere like that. Like even if you wanted to somehow keep Sax floating, it probably should have went something like in my mind. I don't know how you would and I'll get your thoughts on it. I think it could have went like Dre and Tate, because Dre and Tate were pretty much linked to Ghost. They had like the strongest thing. You could have did something where, kind of like Game of Thrones, right? Where you had longer episodes. Yeah. Give us like 80 minutes, 85 minutes of Dre and Tate with pause mixed in the background with like the will. Like you could have had the will thing happen, and then the end of this episode where Tate is watching the television, and then they talk about we have the suspect. We're gonna know who the suspect is who shot St. Patrick, and he's like, holy shit.
Which tells me it's not Sax.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah. So
he doesn't know Sax like that, so
right.
That wouldn't make sense.
So him to say, holy shit, it's got to be one of them two, right? So that the scene, because really what we needed from Paz was probably like maybe a scene or two of her trying to frame Tommy, frame Ghost or whatever, and then the whole Will scene. It's really all we needed. So I think we could have got Dre and Tate, and then a 2-hour series finale where we get that ending for Tommy, and then we follow the characters for what happens post whoever
that scene
shot.
of Tommy driving off should have been the last thing we saw.
Yeah.
In my mind, that should have been the last, because his character, like you said, was so pivotal and so strong in this series. There have been episodes where, to me, Tommy has outacted Ghost by far. You know, to me, Tommy was the star of the show, if you really want me to break it down like that. But, so I feel like that scene should have been the last thing we ever saw on Power. Ever. Because it was the ending of their relationship. Ghost gave him the thing that mattered to him most. He gave him that car. I believe Ghost paid his mom for Tommy to leave his mom, for him to realize that your mom ain't shit, and for Tommy to finally live the life that Ghost knew that he could, away from the corruption and the hurt. Right. And that's why I think Ghost paid Tommy's mom. I don't think it had anything to do with her being like a mother. I think it had more to do with freeing Tommy.
Yeah.
I really do. So that's why I feel that should have been it. That should have been it. Give us the end with Tommy riding off into the sunset. That's it. All this extra stuff that y'all are giving us right now, it's filler. And nobody is frustrated more by filler in a final season than me.
Yeah. Like, yeah, man. Like, I can't dispute anything that you're saying, but it gets more frustrating because this was a dope episode.
I know!
This was a dope episode. So even if they wanted to go the episodic route, it could have been Dre, Tate, and then a 2-hour series finale with Paz, Sax, and everybody else, right? It just figuring out who shot Ghost, because I've said it. I think I said it on the podcast. I've said it, period. The episode 13 is my series finale.
Yeah, it is.
So everything else after this is epilogue at this point.
Like, it's crazy to me. I don't know if that's what they meant for it to be like. I don't know if they're in the Tasha and Tariq episode, will there be some, revelation that we don't see right now? I'm really not sure. But as of right now, these episodes are very out of place. Like, I'm very confused by what they're trying to do. But I did appreciate them giving Rashad the ending that I think we all thought he was going to get. I mean, he is.
I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it. I thought at best, he was going to be the lieutenant governor.
He's a politician, man. They're dirty as fuck. And that's what this has shown me as well. I mean, we know the politicians are dirty, but he is dirty. Like, I mean, everything he does, there is a motive, and that motive is usually negative, bad, evil. You know what I mean? Like, we watched him do so much dirty shit, but in the end, he came out clean. He came out clean. He now is where he wanted to be. He made that beautiful speech.
Right.
In front of Truth, which I was dying laughing at the end of, because his brother was like, "How do you come up with that shit?" Like,
he's like, practice. Yeah.
But I'm, to see his character, I kept hoping there was going to be an okie doke at the end and he was going to get his due. But literally, everyone that was associated with him with something negative that he did died.
Yeah.
He died.
Yeah, and I like the conversation that him and his brother had about what they define as lucky. His brother always saying that no matter what, he was in a situation, he felt like he had 9 lives, he's always landing on his feet. And Tate's looking at him like, yo, you got the family, you got the good job, you got the government job, you got your good family, you got your kid. Like, you are lucky. Like, don't try to make it seem like it's me. I'm still out here hustling. Yeah, I'm lucky in terms of getting out of situations, but you're lucky in life, and he doesn't have that. I like that, but I also like the fact that we were introduced to Tate as a politician, and everybody wanted to know what the hell is behind this. Who is he really? Who is Tate really? When he first dropped, the speculation was he might be somebody from the old neighborhood. He may be somebody connected that knows about Ghost and knows about everything. But in fact, he's just a dude from the hood who was a cop and then saw the game and got into politics and was really playing this politics game. You've seen it throughout the whole progression. You saw it when he rolled up to Walsh and Ramona in that meeting and gave that whole speech about, yo, I'm not done yet, and invoked Obama of all people when he was saying out. They kept saying he wasn't ready, and y'all are making the same mistake. That was a good setup for when they call him. The reason they fill in that gap before him calling Dre to kill Ghost, and we thought it was just because of the speech. it was because of the speech, but the final knife in the back was when they were clearing out his headquarters, and Walsh was coming up to him with Simon Stern, of all people, to try to get his recommendation or his endorsement, and not even wanting him to join the thing because Ghost was still alive. But he's like, yo, you know, we want that endorsement. And he basically is like, fuck out of here, or whatever the case may be. He was in that scene when he rolls up with the gun to Truth was before he gave that speech and found out from the reporter that Ghost had died. And then he just went right into politician mode, and knew that, you know, he had to put on a show. And that's the one thing that he's been able to do throughout this series, is put on that show. You know, even to the point where he has been one of the most calculated people, and it shows because that's his profession. So he had to be calculated. Like from the point of he goes from the lowest of lows. That's why reversal of fortune is very appropriate for him, because he goes from the lowest of lows to rolling up in a random coffee shop and get fans of his like, yo, can I take a picture? Can I da-da-da-da? Like, yo, it's on the house. And he's doing all this stuff on social to show that he still has the support. That's the setup. Like, yo, I ain't as done as y'all think I am. Like, the people, like, you know, my people are with me, and there's people who still with me. Then after the speech he gives outside Truth, once Ghost is shot, the freaking, they roll up to him the next day, and he wants her to spell out, yo, I'm sorry, I want you to be lieutenant governor, and flips it to say, yo, it's governor or nothing. Like, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming.
I did not see that part coming. I thought he was just going to join the ticket. Like, I thought he was just going to join the ticket, take Jamie's spot, and be content. But no.
Right.
No. Like, that was brilliant to me. That really showed how manipulative he can be, to spin something like that, and really got her completely the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Like, everybody who he wanted or needed to be dead died, but not by his hands. Ain't that some crazy shit?
Luckiest motherfucker alive, like his brother said. And it was even, and I love the fact how the whole part when he's in the NYPD and he's giving the statement, and the cops, he's a retired cop. So they're treating him like a cop. Like, yo, you know, whatever. You know, his brother's like, yo, you don't want to question him, you don't do this. And they're like, yo, man, he is one of us. He's one of us. Fuck that. Like, I love how he had to turn in his gun because it was used in a killing. And then once they get the news that there was shots of Truth, they're like, yo, man, fuck that. Fuck protocol. You gotta come through. Bring Tate too. Roll up with him. And he's rolling with him in the car. Like they're still treating him like a cop up until that point. And you know, he did have a point with, and so he's in the precinct when Ghost gets shot. And he's outside. So that's when once he was going to the precinct to question Cedric's son's death, I was like, okay, so he's in the hoodie, so he's clearly not going to be around anywhere where Ghost is killed. But
I do have a question.
What's up?
When he was they rolled up the Truth with the brother, what was the point of him taking the gun with him?
I think that's a good question, because if they said that shots were already fired, maybe because remember, he had this is like a total stab in the dark, right? Maybe remember when he basically intimated that he hired Dre to kill Ghost, or there may be a way that it's tied to him, right? He might have been like, okay, if Dre is hiding or Dre is somewhere, wherever, he's going to take care of it. Which is stupid, because nothing but cops is on the scene.
I was like, was he going to plant that gun? Because remember, they made a point to say he's not going to mess up the scene. He's not going to taint the scene. They said something like that. So I'm like, was he about to plant that gun? Like, what was the point of them making it they made it a point to show us that he was grabbing that gun and putting it in his pocket.
Right.
I'm like, what are you really going to do with this building surrounded by cops? What was the plan?
Right. I I literally have no clue what
I'm
the
like,
fuck.
did we miss something with that gun?
Right. I have no clue whatsoever, like, why. That's a fucking great question. I have no clue why he was rolling up, but you made a great point. He got rid of everybody who had an issue with him one way or another. The shit that he did to Ramona, burning her in the press and saying she had an affair with Ghost. So, and even afterwards, when she rolled up to him in his in wherever the suite was and was like, "Yo, I never had sex with him." He said, "Well, oh well." Now every time when you're asked, you're going to be asked about sleeping with a dude who was convicted of murder and drug dealing and all of that. So your career is pretty much over. But just because she wasn't going to ride with him and turned on him when she saw a better ticket. Then you had Cassandra, the married chick who had got the congressional seat from that whole scandal, who was trying to like get back in his good graces, and he used her for free room and sex, and they kicked her out. Like,
Which was crazy.
Wild crazy.
But we knew that's who Tate is.
Yeah, that's who he is. He's about himself. I think he's one of those people who I do think he wants to do good, but he wants to do it in spite of whatever his ambitions are. And his ambitions were to be governor. And I think he's one of those people who's gonna like oops his way into doing good. He probably, whatever he began with, is not who he is now. But his like, he's so adept at public speaking and retaining information and using that to make a point. When he was given the speech in the church where he accepted the nomination, where he used that scripture from the reverend, when he was talking to the reverend about losing. I forgot the line that he said, but he used that same line in his nomination speech. And mind you, that is the same reverend that forced them to have that Raina's memorial in the church and have that whole spectacle. So he was tied to Tate. So that was a good tie back to previous seasons, because that was the same reverend. The same reverend I think that Ghost was going to when he turned into the Punisher and started killing people.
I didn't realize that connection. That's dope.
Yeah. So that was a good tie to it also. So, Tate kind of walks into the sunset himself as the nominee for New York governor. Pretty much after that speech, Kamal, his brother, tells him about Dre being killed. And he was just like, while he was ready to go, he's like, "Yeah, man, just want to let you know that Andre Coleman kid, he was killed and blah blah blah." He's like, "Oh, word?" He's just like, "Yeah." And you can see his brother just shaking his head like, "This motherfucker, like, yo, you really got out clean." So now, for all intents and purposes, Tay has a clean slate.
Yeah, he's clean.
Tay has a clean slate. So we get that. But once again, as we've been saying before, even that ending, right? Like with him walking off and finding out, they could have baked that into another episode. They could have did something, and it's just, I don't know at this point if 15 episodes was necessary to tell the story that they wanted to tell. Like that's just for me, but who knows?
I don't know, man. I really wanted this final season. We've watched the show now for 5-6 years. I really wanted them to do right by this final season. Like they bigged it up so much, and I feel like whoever is in the writers' room, I don't know, are they fighting about where these episodes need to go? Like, is anybody standing up and saying this doesn't make sense? Like, I need some more clarification. I hope at the end of this, Courtney Kemp does a sit down and she asks, the fans, the real fans, what did you think? What could I have done differently? Because whenever she decides to do this Power Book 2, if that's what she's doing, please do it right. Just do it right.
Yeah. You said it. You said it. I would love to somebody to do a final interview with her and ask her some of these questions, ask her about these, because I get it. Part of me thinks they wanted to draw this out and give it a long goodbye. Part of it is like, were they even capable of telling this story succinctly and ending it strong. Because, let's be real. Like, we ain't on Star's payroll. We keep it real. People don't fuck with a lot of the writing decisions and stuff for seasons of this show. For seasons of this show. And I've kept it real when I thought people were being too nitpicky and when I thought people had a point. I do think people have a point. For what they're giving us in these 5 episodes, if they would have sequenced it correctly, I probably wouldn't have cared that everybody got a separate episode. Still don't think Pod should have got it. It could have went Dre, Tate, and then a 2-hour finale where all of that stuff was baked in. And they stretched the days. And then in fact, all this stuff that was happening between these characters, it looks like it happened within the span of a day.
Which is crazy.
Which is nuts. So now I know that will shit, the will and giving out all the shit in the will happened the morning after. Which doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. But they could have done it where it was like days, like they could have used the last episode to do that, but
6 days later.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
What is it, SpongeBob? Like,
right.
I don't understand. Like, I don't want, I didn't want it to be like that. Like, we all know sometimes wills, honestly, settling a will can take years sometimes, depending on the stature of the person. And somebody like Ghost, who is just getting involved in politics, who had all these business holdings, do you really think his will is going to be done a day after, a week after? I don't freaking think so.
Right.
Like, the death certificate, I believe, all that stuff has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but when you're ending a show, we going speed forward through this. It's just like Game of Thrones when they were traversing long distances in like 10 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? I get it, but yeah, it's just, as I've said before, I think a lot of the writing things would be forgiven if they would have executed it better.
Yeah.
So, that's just what it is. Got one question. Shout out to CD Lester on Twitter. Question. Why isn't there a way for the black leading man? What is it? I guess he's saying he's angry that a black leading man isn't able to walk out on top. Walter White got closer. Tony Soprano got to eat dinner and live with his family. I'm pissed that Ghost didn't get what he wanted out of the game. I don't think, I would say, if you watch, if Tommy got what he wanted, I would say if you look at it, yeah, Walter White got closer. I think, shit, I would say Ghost got closer than Walter White did.
Yeah.
Ghost got way closer than Walter White did. Like, that dude was put in a position, if you watch Breaking Bad, where there was no escape. There was no escape for him at the end. As far as Tony Soprano, yeah, he got to eat dinner or whatever with his family, but you're assuming that Ghost was about 100% about the family in the end.
And he wasn't.
He was about himself.
And they made that a point in this show from the very beginning. Like, I think we as watchers are making the characters into something that was never envisioned for the character by the writers.
Right.
Like, we can't make Ghost into a family man. That's not who he was. He doesn't even hang out with his kids on the damn show, guys. Like, why would he be having dinner with his family in the end? That's not... Ghost, his final scene probably would have been fucking Ramona. All right? That's what his final scene would have been. Because that's who he's been a fuckboy. This entire series, okay? If anything, Tommy is the one who deserved that. That's why I love that episode. This show was about power. It was not about Ghost. It was about power.
Right.
The power that they were fighting to get and achieve, their own different sets of and beliefs of what power was. Tommy had his own version of what power was. His was being on the top of the game. Ghost was also power, but being on the top of a clean, legit game and fighting for that balance of still being in the streets, but also being the man who he envisioned for himself, running New York in a different way. So to me, Tommy deserves the ending just as much as Ghost does. If you really wanted Ghost to have the ending, look at the ending they gave Tommy and be happy with it.
Right, because I think we talk so much on this podcast, right? But I think for me, I had said before that I thought that like Tommy was like the real Ghost at times, with the way that the work that he put in. What he's been what he's been doing, like, and who he's been the whole episode, I feel like he's been more of a Ghost in the final episodes than Ghost has been. I do think, though, you know, Lester, I do think that Ghost got closer than those other people. But once again, he's a tragic character, so you ain't gonna get the he ain't gonna get the farewell that we think everybody else gets. And shout out, we do have an email too. Yeah, shout out to Tasha Glass. Let me read the Power Season 6, Episode 14. Comments on Power. Kudos to Mario Van Peebles for directing and Larenz with the acting skills. I didn't even know Mario Van Peebles directed. I should have checked that. That's what's up, though. Wow. Okay, Mario Van Peebles. He's been doing a lot of stuff on the low that people really heralded from. But he's been in the culture for a while, directing a lot of shit and doing stuff like that. So shout to him. But they could have kept that whole episode to themselves. Tate was already cleared in the Dre episode. I feel like they are just wasting our time at this point. I do wonder if they reveal how it comes out to the public that James St. Patrick is in fact a murderous drug dealer. The way Tate mentioned it to Ramona made me think it's now been made public knowledge. I would say it's just that all the main characters know, but he's cleared himself. He cleared himself in the court system. He rehabilitated his image. So everybody, like, his image is a former drug dealer now turned politician. Almost like a rapper turned, a drug dealer turned rapper. You know that's a part of his story, so it's not deniable. The fact that it was still going on, that's the different story. That some of them don't even know, but they know that he has a shaky at best background that has been proven, but he has those stains. So I think the general public knows, but clearly it wasn't enough to deter them from wanting to vote for him or whatever the case may be. Also, nothing but respect for Cedric the Entertainer, but ain't nobody buying him as some Southern fried hitman mentioning his hitman, mentoring his hitman apprentice son. Love the pod. Thanks. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's written in throughout the season ever since we established this. I'm glad I didn't waste valuable internet space creating a thing for nothing. But yeah, Tasha, I think we touched on a lot of those points. I feel like if they were going to bring Sed in as a hitman, they could have had him as a hitman for a couple more episodes, like make it legitimate. It just looked like a stunt for a guest slot. Kendrick's role was a 1-episode role. We never saw his character again. It was dope, and it left open the opportunity like, yo, I'd like to see his character again. Like that's what it was. And it was fine if you wanted to do it like that. But to shock us with Cedric the Entertainer dead on the floor and then 4 episodes later show us what the hell he was doing, it just seems off. So I like Ced for what he was doing, but he definitely to me felt like Cedric the Entertainer as a hitman. Cedric the Entertainer plays Cedric the Entertainer as a hitman. Yeah. So I don't know. But I feel I would have bought it. I would have bought it a lot more if he would have just showed up as it and then got killed.
I agree. I mean, like, we can sit here and nitpick, you know what I mean, all day long about the things that they've messed up. Like you said, the episode was good. Just wrong place.
Right.
Wrong place, wrong time. That's it. I just wish it would have been different. But now, the way they've set us up, I've seen just a lot of comments from watchers on Twitter, Facebook. People, I would say 75% of people are not happy. Right. I'm willing to give it that big of a number. A lot of people are just not happy with how they've handled this final season. And I get it. I don't want to get it. Because you and I are usually very objective. You know what I mean? Like, we can watch something and we'll say, oh, I get why they're saying this, but, and then give them another perspective. I can't do that with this.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. Give me a reason to fight for you, Power. Give me something.
Yeah, and once again, I don't know what the hell is happening over at Stars, but yo, whoever's in charge of the content I'm sorry, I don't advocate for nobody to lose their job, but you might wanna start looking, yo. You might wanna update your LinkedIn because them last 2 episodes of Power definitely leaked. It's all on the internet. They definitely leaked. I know they're out there somewhere, and it leaked days before this episode aired. Yeah. So dodging that has been a skill, a chore, if you will. And it happens every season. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
Obviously was leaking it intentionally. Like, this shit's... Like, I kept telling people, well, I heard they filmed a bunch of different endings, so what you saw may not be what's accurate, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know at this point. Like, at this point, I'm like, yo, y'all that fed up that you leaking this shit? Like, everybody fed up with Power that much? I don't know. But yeah, like, I think that's gonna...
Ending with the Super Bowl?
That was just about... you have excellent timing. So, the finale for Power is airing February 9th. So the week after the Super Bowl, which to me is the smartest thing they could have done. Because if they were going up against the Super Bowl, even though it leaked, even though it drops on Saturday night, there is a big portion of the fan base that still watches it when it airs on Sunday. Like people who just want to watch it when it airs or whatever. And I think if you're doing a series finale, you don't do it up against the Super Bowl. I do think that they could have.
Which is another reason why I feel like they planned these episodes 100% wrong.
Right, and the fact that you didn't have to break a whole month. I don't know. Whatever, man. The finale ends February 9th.
Stuttering, you fed up?
Yeah, I'm fed up. Like, whatever, yo. Whatever. The episode airs February 9th, and I think that's gonna be that final recording for us is gonna be good because we're gonna talk about the episode, we're gonna talk about the series as a whole, what we thought about it, like where do we think it ranks, where we think the ultimate legacy is gonna be. It's gonna be a I was gonna say anthology, but that's definitely the wrong thing. But it's just gonna be it's gonna be part celebration, part retrospective on it, right? And one thing that I want to do, of course, I think we're good. We're recording this early in the morning. We gotta get the fuck out of here and live our lives and do shit. So one thing I would ask for y'all, if y'all are listeners, y'all been listening since, some of you have been listening since we started this in season 2. Some of you started this season. Wherever you fall, y'all are family. And we want to hear from you. Just answer this question. What do you think? What do you think is gonna be Power's legacy? What do you think is Power's legacy? Like, you could answer that. You could answer, where does Power rank for you? And what do you ultimately, after you watch that final episode, what do you ultimately think of the series as a whole? Like, these are the questions that we're going to be answering. And I want y'all as fans to be able to chime in, because part of this podcast has been about your reactions and what you got to say. So chime in with that. You can tweet it. I'd say if you use the email might be good for this, powerafterhourspod@gmail.com. But you can, after you watch, as always, have how you send your questions to the Power After Hours on Twitter. You could put it in our mentions and let us know what you think it is. If you could do it in 150 characters or 240, excuse me. Do that. 280, I think it is now. So if you could do it in 280 or less, do that. Otherwise, you could send us an email. I would ask, if you've saw the leaks already, don't do it until the 9th, because there's people who still check our mentions and interact with it that haven't seen it. So don't spoil it for anybody. Don't spoil it for us, because I'm not trying to watch the leaks until the date. So yes. So let us know what you think about the series as a whole, what you think about Power's legacy, because we're going to be talking about all that, and I think it's going to be interesting, because I think we have a good perspective on it. So that's going to be fun. And I think that is it for us. Thank you once again for listening and rocking with us this season, this episode, and throughout the time. You can find me on social media everywhere at Jeff J Says. Krissy, where can they find you?
I am at Krissy Bree.
Yes, she is, honey.
Yes, unpacked and blessed. T-shirts coming soon.
Oh, here we go. All right. She's making money off this pod and I'm not. All right. So you get all your Krissy Bree merch and apparel. And, you know, spatulas coming soon, crock pot sets, all of that.
You're an asshole. I ain't gotta be a crock pot.
You know, black people like a damn crock pot. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us, and we'll check you later.
Peace.
I want you to sing it with me. They say this is a big rich town. Yeah, yeah. I just come from the lowest part. Right like city life, I gotta make it. This is where it goes. Yeah. I just have to know. Wait a minute. They say this is a big rich. Say what? I just come from the bright light, city light. This is where it goes down. Yeah. I just have to know. Legal or illegal, baby, I gotta make it. Southside.